shows.
Welcome in, everybody, to a Thursday edition of Birds 365 here on JAKIB Sports. I'm your host, Zander Krause. That's my co-host, Johnny Mac, John McMullen. John, how you doing on this Thursday morning, brother?
Doing well, gearing up for the heat coming to the Delaware Valley area, which is a problem for me because I get up too early, so I have to drink coffee to get me going in the morning, and I don't like iced coffee, and it is brutal to drink regular coffee when it's hot.
So what, do you stay inside? Didn't you say your wife loves the air conditioning? So does she have
Yeah,
the house?
she loved it. Yeah, she. But I don't like the air. It's a disconnect. Like sometimes I got to go outside just to feel. I don't like air conditioning. It's a big problem.
I get cold, John, in air conditioning. I
don't like it. I don't like it at all. There's something about it. It just bothers me. But when it's got to be 101 next week around here. When it's that hot.
Next week?
Yeah, I think Monday and Tuesday. I was just looking at it next week. 101 right now predicted both days.
Oh, man, that's hot. It's getting hot. Yeah, well, it's been gloomy around here a little bit, so it's good to get some hot weather in here. We'll see how long it sticks around. It's officially summertime, though, John, when you hear that weather comes, and that makes me think of the upcoming training camp for the Birds. It's going to be hot out there for the Birds, but plenty of good stuff to talk about today. I want to welcome and thank everybody for being here this morning on Birds 365. Johnny Mac, I want to talk a little NFC East today, all right? Now, when I say that, what's your first thought that comes to mind? How do you feel like this division is going to be? John, I feel like, and I don't know if I'm right about this, but obviously, I feel like the NFC East has a chance to be the NFC North of last year, where you have three really good teams. I know people aren't believing in the Cowboys yet, but I think the Cowboys could be better than people think just by default because they're getting Dak back. They won, I think, 7 games last year. I think they can get that number up to 10 plus. And then I think the Commanders are going to be really good. I think the Eagles are going to be really good. What do you think about the NFC East, John, coming into this year based on everything that happened this offseason and the changes that have been made?
Well, I'm with you. I think that I think Dallas is going to be better simply because of what you said. I mean, the quarterback's back. That's just the reality of the situation. You may not like him, but he's a heck of a lot better than what they're rolling out there last year with Cooper Rush. So, I mean, you're just lying to yourself if you're assuming they're not going to be better. Washington, the NFC North comparison, I mean, you'd rather be the NFC East in the playoffs than the regular season. I don't think they're, in other words, I don't think they're going to have a 15-win team, a 14-win team, and whatever Green Bay won 10 or 11. I don't think they're going to have that. That's just hard to have that kind of production. But it's more important to play your best ball late. And the NFC Championship game was Eagles Commanders. And I think there's a real chance of those two teams being significant contenders. And I rate the Cowboys as a wild card contender, and the Giants is still pretty bad. But finally going in the right direction. And I do look at that Giants defensive front and say, man, they could do some damage if people, keep playing. And there's a human nature aspect when you're going to lose some games, and it becomes difficult at some point in the season. But that defensive front on paper, that's one of the best 2 or 3 defensive fronts in football. So that's probably the one nice thing I'll say about the Giants all year.
Yeah, I wonder how much that'll do for them, though. I mean, you got to feel like that would do more than 4 wins or whatever the Giants normally do, but maybe not.
Yeah, well, I think they'll be over 4. Whatever it was last year. Was it 3 or 4? I don't know what it was, but
I don't remember what they were.
Yeah, I think they'll be a little bit better, but when you have those issues at the quarterback position, I think Russell Wilson is better. He's going to be able to line up. You're going to be able to run your offense, but he's clearly a limited player at this stage of his career, nowhere near where he once was. So they should be better, but in this division, they're clearly the 4th best team still.
Yeah, no doubt about it. I do think the division is going to be a lot better, and competition gets better. We talk about the changes that happened in the NFL. The Eagles were the top dog. I know they played the Commanders in the title game, but it felt like all year that the Eagles were the top dog in the East. I assume they will be there again, John, to repeat as NFC East champions. But an uphill battle, John, hasn't happened since
It
2000.
hasn't happened in a long time. So, I mean, that's part of it. We know the Eagles' schedule. We know everybody's shooting for them. That's part of it as well. When you're the champions, everybody gets up. You usually get the A game, all that kind of stuff. So that part of it's real. The schedule is real. Your 3 games are that are off kilter of what the normal schedule is, are all against first place teams, and that makes a difference. Now we know the NFL, the upheaval from year to year, and some of these teams might not be as good as they look like from last year on paper, but some will probably be better. Like you look at Las Vegas, and you say, that's an easy one, and it probably will be. But it's Pete Carroll now. You never know. It's Geno Smith. That's a competent quarterback. Things change quickly in this league, and so you're going to get a give and take there. I'm sure some teams are going to come back to the pack, and some teams are going to elevate themselves a little bit, and that's why football's fun. That's why you can't just say, "Oh, you're going to win this game. You're going to win this game. You're going to win this game." But the Eagles are well prepared from a roster standpoint, and a lot of things have to click defensively. But that was the same thing they had. Vic said that when he talked to us a couple of weeks ago. That was the same thing last year. Nobody thought we'd have the number 1 defense. A bunch of guys had to click, and they did. So who's to say it can't happen again? I don't like the odds of that, but you never know.
Who was the biggest swing this year, John, of the 4 teams? And by swing, I mean Eagles were 14. They could swing to 7. That's not going to happen. The Cowboys could swing up. The Commanders could swing. Who swings the furthest? Who changes the most coming into this?
It's hard to swing up if you're the Eagles, or you win 14 games. Same thing with Washington at 12 games. I mean, how far are they going to go? So the obvious answer to that would be Dallas or the Giants. And who would have the bigger swing? I would think Dallas, because of getting Dak Prescott back. And that, the Giants are going to have to win in a more unconventional fashion. So I would say, with that defense and, that which we talk about all the time, and margin of error on this show. And when you're trying to win defense first, you got a small margin of error. But the Eagles played a way that you're not supposed to play in the modern game, and they went the whole way. So you can win, but there's a very small path to it. If those guys dominate, if they show what they can be on paper, quickest way to beat, we've seen it. Now, I mean, people seem to forget it once the game is over, whether it's the Giants back in the day against Tom Brady, whether it's the Buccaneers against Patrick Mahomes, whether it was the Eagles back in January against Patrick Mahomes. How do you beat a great quarterback? Pressure, pressure, pressure. And, they added Abdul Carter to Dexter Lawrence and Brian Burns and Kayvon Thibodeau.
Yeah. They got a lot of dudes coming for the quarterback over there, man.
Yeah. So, I mean, they have the right. Giants fans haven't had a lot to be excited about, but they have the right to be very excited about their defensive front. In fact, I haven't looked around the league, but they could probably argue they have the most talented defensive front in the NFL.
Yeah, no doubt about it. We'll talk a little bit more about also Jaire Alexander, everybody, just the update on him. He is officially signed and off the market, not a Philadelphia Eagle. He went to the Baltimore Ravens. Talk about a
For
stack.
1,000. Can I say I am shocked at how little Jaire Alexander got. But I am not shocked that he's not in Philadelphia. For 1,035, and I think Zander, I think you froze up. So I don't know if you said
he got $6 million, John.
Well, he really got $4 million plus incentives that can take it up to $6 million, which is mind blowing. I didn't see that coming, and that, but I think there's a couple things that. One, I think they got a Lamar discount, and by that I mean he wanted to play there, and that's not an insult to Jalen Hurts. They were college teammates. They both went to Louis. They're very close. So I think they got a discount. Plus, they're a significant contender as well. I think it was Jordan Schultz mentioned he got some offers that were higher. He had to get offers that were higher. In his own division, I would think Detroit went above that. I would think Minnesota went above that. However, if you're taking $4 million, there's no $13 million offer out there. I saw one last week from CBS. We were joking about it with Jeff Kerr. Oh, the Eagles are going to pay him $16 million to come in, which I chuckled at for the money purposes. But, I was at 6, 7. Well, I'll start thinking about it at 6 or 7. They got him for 4. Now, again, I don't think the Eagles could have gotten him for 4 or anybody else because he wanted to play with Baltimore. He wanted to play with Lamar, who he's very close with from their days in college. So, but if you start thinking about 6, say 6 or 7. But the second thing it tells me is there's more concerned about this guy's physical condition than people realize. And that's one thing he played 7 games last year, played 7 games in 2023. He played 4 games in 2021. So 3 of the last 4 seasons, he's played less than half the games. So that was obviously an issue for some people. And hey, I don't think he's a fit here from a schematic standpoint. I talked about that. And then lastly, they believe in Kelee Ringo. This is another indication. And with Kelee Ringo, you got to shit or get off the pot. This is year 3. So if you sign a guy in June 19th, wherever we are, and you're putting him back in his 3rd year as just a special teams player. Well, he's extension eligible after this season. We don't talk about that because he hasn't played. You basically wasted his whole rookie contract, which if you want to do, that's fine. But that says you don't believe he's a long-term.
Yeah, and it might delay you, John. It might delay. I mean, you pay $6 million to Jaire for a 1-year deal. He comes in, maybe he does good, but then what? Versus
well, exactly, and then you're back in the same. You're back in the same position, and you have no idea. You still have no idea if Kelee Ringo can play.
Yeah, I think this was the right move to not get this. I don't know if the Eagles were even ever interested, honestly. I haven't seen any reports.
Well, that'll come out eventually, and I was texting some people yesterday. I have sensed no interest. I don't think they were one of those teams. But the number is so low, I wasn't expecting the number to be that low. But, and then of the last part I'll say is Adoree Jackson. I think the Eagles have a lot of confidence in Adoree Jackson as an insurance policy. And they've been trying to get in business with Adoree Jackson for years. They liked him in the draft. They tried to sign him in free agency. The first time when he got a big deal with the Giants, they've liked him for a long time. And Nick Sirianni's brought him up a couple times unprompted. Yeah, I think that's part of it as well. That if things do go wrong with Kelee Ringo, I think they're confident that Adoree Jackson can hold down the fort. But yeah, the number was shockingly low to me. So I get why people will perk up and say, well, why didn't you bring him in for that? But A, I don't think you could have brought him in for that. And B, there's probably more health concerns around the league than we realize.
Is that the best secondary in football now, John? We just talked about the Giants might have the best defensive front. That Baltimore
It's real
secondary
good.
is real good, man. Malachi Starks
I
added
mean,
with Kyle Hamilton.
if he plays, and Malachi Starks is a rookie. I mean, so a lot of it is just, you see the names and
Well, they got
the same.
Marlon. They got the Wiggins kid. Now they add Jaire, who's
Yeah,
proven.
I like Wiggins. Kyle Hamilton's phenomenal. He's
Kyle
proven.
Hamilton's phenomenal.
Humphrey's proven. He's a great player. Higgins, I love his coverage ability coming out. Undersized. He's supposedly gotten bigger. So yeah, they have a ton of potential. But again, you got to prove it. Same thing with the Giants. I mean, you look at the names and you go, "Ooh, that's impressive," but they got to prove it. They got to do it. Same thing with the Ravens in the secondary. You got to
That
prove it.
boosted. That definitely boosted, though. I think a lot of people are on the Ravens now to come out of the AFC. You were on them early. You've been saying
Yeah.
you think you're
Well,
going to ride the Ravens.
they were already talented. Yeah, that team is one day stars are going to align. It might be this year. They're good.
Yeah. We'll see what ends up happening with that. Johnny Mac, real quick, I do want to get back to the NFC East. Just to finish that, I did want to give the update on Jaire. It slipped my mind at the very start of the show, but I did want to bring it up there. Back to the NFC East real quick, John. What do you think of the coaching staffs in the NFC East? Like, I think the Eagles obviously have a great staff. They've proven they're a great staff. The one thing that was holding me back on buying into the Commanders last year was Dan Quinn a little bit. I like Cliff Kingsbury. I think he's a good fit with Jaden. And then you look over at Dallas. They brought in Brian Schottenheimer after letting go of Mike McCarthy. What do you think of the coaching staffs right now in the NFC East and how they kind of fare?
Well, I think, when you're not there, I think, one of the strengths of the Eagles is, some of the position coaches nobody talks about. Everybody talks about Stout. But other than that, I know, and you're always going to prop up your own guys. But, Bobby King is a guy who's just so well regarded in the organization. Not many people know it or talk about him. Aaron Moorhead, his development as a receivers coach, Jason Michael. I was just talking to Dallas Goedert earlier this week. I mean, he's one of the reasons Dallas Goedert is back. Those two are so close. And, I don't get intel on Giants assistant coaches other than the history is they don't develop players very well. Brian Schottenheimer, a lot of unknown there as a head coach. And, it was an interesting out of the box hire. Not that he can't do some things, but and then Washington. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I don't think people like defensive coaches as head coaches. I think they're tilted against them. I mean, the guy went to the Super Bowl, granted, as a head coach. Granted, he gave up the biggest lead in history in the Super Bowl, but I think that was more Kyle's problem, actually, managing the game. That game was over. Kyle just played it conservatively, and he tried to get too cute. And that kind of thing happens. And Dan obviously was the head coach, and he's going to get blamed, but very good defensive coach. Nobody questions him there. So, yeah, I'm not with you. I think Dan Campbell's proven himself. And then to turn around that team.
Dan Quinn, right? Not Campbell.
Yeah, Dan Quinn. Did I say Campbell?
Yeah, you're good. You said Campbell.
Dan
I'm
Quinn.
like, wait a second. I didn't doubt Dan Campbell.
Yeah, Dan Quinn. I've had a lot of starting to worry. I got to
change your coffee this week or something, John. You need to get that.
I've always had. Yeah, I'm starting to worry. I've always had a good memory, and I couldn't remember Tom Donahoe this week, and I couldn't remember. Well, I remembered them in Yannick Noah, but the names I couldn't grasp. So I'm starting to get a little bit worried. And now Jody used to do
commercial. I always see
Jody used to do that and conflate names. So but Dan Quinn, I'm talking about. Went to the Super Bowl. as a head coach, great defensive coach. No issues there. And now he's got this team back. And most of it is, I mean, look, if they don't get Jaden Daniels, they're not good. I mean, it's always talent first, but I think Dan Quinn's already proven himself as a really good NFL coach. I don't question that at all. At all.
Yeah, no. What about Schottenheimer? What do you expect from him?
Who knows? I mean,
yeah, I have no clue either.
You know, his dad was a good coach. I mean, if you like nepotism, but the complete uncertainty. So yeah, I mean, that was a strange hire. A lot of people thought that's where Kellen would end up because of his history. And because remember, you're not only getting Kellen Moore, you're also getting Doug Nussmeier as the package, and they both had a long history in Dallas. So Jerry does some strange things. Talking about senior moments, he does some strange things.
Yeah, no, he does. He definitely does. Does do some strange things there with the coaching staff. Good stuff, Johnny Mac. Good opening segment here. Let me get to the super chat. Eduardo checks in. He says, "Who's taking the AFC this year? I doubt it'll be KC." Well, you know where John's going.
Yeah, Baltimore. Should have took it last year. Should have took it 2 years ago. They're the best team. They're the most talented team, and the stars will eventually align. I do put Buffalo in there too because they have an easier road, and they're in the worst division of football in my mind. I mean, they're 6-0 before they start, unless things go really poorly for them. So that's going to help them get the number 1 seed, which is always important. But I'm with you. I think Kansas City. And maybe that's a little bit of recency bias because the Eagles just destroyed them. But, man, I'm not impressed by I think Andy did a hell of a job with that team last year. A little bit of smoke and mirrors. They're not nearly as talented as the Eagles, obviously, but Baltimore, even Buffalo. And they had, great quarterback and great coach. But I'd rather have the great talent. Always.
I don't know why I like the Bills this year, John. I like the Bills to win. I think I'm just a Josh Allen guy. I like Josh Allen. I feel like he's going to win. But you're right. Sean McDermott might stop him dead in his tracks.
Did it once. 13 seconds, Sean. Amazing kept his job.
That was one of the greatest playoff games I've ever witnessed, though.
Yeah, well, they're also.
I think Gabe Davis had like 4 touchdowns in that game, didn't he?
Yeah, it also ruined overtime. So there's always people overreact to.
Oh yeah, is that the game that happened that they then changed the rule of overtime?
Yeah. And they had to change it twice because they fucked that up. So now they've changed it again. Yeah, way too many people listening in the NFL, Park Avenue. Stop going on Twitter after games. Just stay the course. Stay the course. Don't listen to the squeaky wheels.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Another super chat here. JD3 checking in. What's up? Look at his picture.
What is it?
That is a Harrison Bryant jersey, it looks like. For JD3.
Boy, how'd you get that?
I don't know. I think he might have made that on Canva, or he might have had to create that via AI or something. I don't think a Bryant jersey exists out there. JD3 says, J-Mac, your 76ers take yesterday is your best take yet. They could have the dream team and still lose. Keep an eye on 85 in camp for me.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny because Ace Bailey's not going to. Where's Pumper? Is Pumper here? Ace Bailey's not going to work out for No, he hasn't worked out for anybody. This kid's a pain in the ass already. I mean, I don't know. But I do know the Sixers are going to get it wrong. And prove me wrong. We were talking yesterday about the Eagles in the dynasty talk and the 3 Super Bowls in 8 years and doing it over 2 different regimes. The Doug Peterson, Carson Wentz to Nick Sirianni, Jalen Hurts. Who's responsible first. And again, on the field, I just did it again. I always go talent first on the field. Players. Can't win without good players. And the Eagles certainly had the best roster last year, maybe have the best roster still, although, there's some question marks this time around. More question marks, I would say. But it all starts with Jeffrey Lurie at the top. Because he builds a system where everybody can operate to bring that together. And he permits that system. If he didn't permit that system, it doesn't work. The Sixers and most, I'm not picking on the Sixers, and most professional sports teams do not operate that way, including some really higher profile ones. You're muted, Zan.
Yeah, Jeffrey's also responsible for what he did with Howie, keeping him in the building, making him back to the GM, and he's also responsible for hiring Nick. So it's hard to say it's one of those two because Jeffrey is the reason that they can operate the way they do, and he also brought them into the building. So I agree with you. I think it is Jeffrey Lurie the most, but I don't know. The winning did go to a new level when Nick and Jalen showed up.
Well, because the players got better, and that is cyclical. Eventually, this era, that's why I said enjoy it. Eventually, this era will end because if you keep picking at 32 and 64, well, the great players are in the top 5, and that's the way it works, and that's the way it's set up. And it's always cyclical, but they build a system up where they're always basically relevant and they're always in the conversation. And again, that goes back to Andy in 1999. That was the whole philosophy. Be consistently good. And if you're consistently good, you have a chance where those stars are going to align and you make a run. And that's the whole thought process. And it has been for now a quarter of a century. And that Andy deserves a lot of credit, but Jeffrey deserves a lot of credit. And then the business part of it, which nobody likes to talk about because it's boring and I get about it. But, there aren't a lot of teams willing. As we said, the Eagles are by far the leaders in dead money. And most owners, in fact, I would say 31 other owners don't want that much dead money around their necks. So you got a big advantage if you're the Philadelphia Eagles.
I want to talk about that a little bit on the show too, the voidable years and everything with that conversation. I want to bring that back up. Slager gave me a good, if Slager's in the chat, I'm not sure if he is, but he said, I want a clear explanation on the threats to the void years. So we're going to talk about a little bit about that. John, can I ask you though, before we get into that, what does that mean? I get other fans that will comment on our channel all the time and they'll say, the credit card bill's coming due for the Eagles. Like, it's not going to be all this pretty soon. You guys are screwed soon. And I'm like,
they've been saying
I don't
that
know.
for
I've been
years.
hearing that for years, man. And it just doesn't happen. Now, I get in theory what they're saying, that the Eagles kick so much down the road that eventually there might be a squeeze. I don't see that. It hasn't happened. Is that a real threat? Could this happen to the Eagles? Like, how do you see this playing out in the next 3 to 5 years? Or are they so good at this, it's just going to be business as usual basically forever?
Well, again, I when I talk about it, and I've said this before, while it's a big advantage to do business the way the Eagles do business, at the end of the day, it still comes down to evaluation. If you have a bunch of Bryce Huffs, yeah, you're going to screw yourself by kicking money down the line. Yeah. You already see it. You're in the midst of it. It's hard to see. It's like a hurricane. You're in the eye of the hurricane. This off season is an example. They've spent more cash over the past decade than any other team in the NFL by far. And now, again, the one of the issues of success, the old, it's a problem. It's a good problem, but it's a problem. You got too many good players. And what's coming up down the road? You already saw it with Cam Jurgens. Reed Blankenship, I think, is going to get extended before week 1. We'll see how that shakes out. Now, he's a little bit lesser, but then down the road, Jalen Carter, Nolan Smith, Quinyon Mitchell, Cooper DeJean. What if Gailey Ringo does hit? You know, they have all this young talent. So that's what they decided. This is the year we're going to repopulate the cash on hand. We're not going to spend money. We're not going to go after Myles Garrett. We're not going to go after Trey Hendrickson. We're not going to make the splashy move to try to convince DJ Watt or somebody to leave. We're not even going to sign Jaire Alexander. $3 million is the most money they gave a free agent this offseason. That's it. You're in the midst of it. Of the impact of spending so much cash over the past decade. That's why they traded CJ. Now, did the high maintenance personality play into it? Sure. But that's why they traded CJ. That's why they had that demarcation line with Dallas Goedert. Well, we can't pay you $14 million. Hey, can we do it for 10? They decided yes. And that was the one that was a little bit off kilter because even that's pretty expensive. I didn't think they'd do that, to be honest. And on and on and on. You're in the midst of it right now. But the majority of their evaluation, Jalen Hurts, A.J. Brown, Jordan Mailata, Devontae Smith, Saquon Barkley, Landon Dickerson, home runs. All the people they extended early that looked like, again, for 10 days or whatever it was, Jalen Hurts was and you just saw Nicole talk about it, his agent, Nicole Lynn, on that clip you were mentioning on the show. He was the highest paid player in the history of football for 10 days. Now it looks like a bargain.
Yeah. Not even a top 10 paid quarterback.
Same thing with all these guys. Devontae Smith, bargain. A.J. Brown, bargain. Jordan Mailata, bargain. Even at these high for the level of play. But if they play like Bryce Huff, then it's a disaster. So if you miss on a bunch of those players, and their batting average is tremendous when they target somebody early and pay them, because they pay them top of the market when they sign them, their batting average has been tremendous. If that batting average falls, you're going to have some bigger issues down the road.
Right. Bryce Huff, first one in a little bit, and it seems to be a miss, Johnny Mac.
Yeah. A significant miss, yeah. You know, here and there, but significant as far as, you know, they paid him. They ended up paying him $26 million for 300 snaps. So that's why I was saying, like, the people say, oh, great, Howie. No, that was not Howie's best moment. Howie does a lot of great shit, but that was not one of his best moments. Now, if you want to go forward and say, well, yeah, but he admitted the mistake. I agree with that, but it's still a mistake. Don't conflate that. But the vast majority of times that they have evaluated players, they have been correct in recent seasons. And that's still the key to it all. Because if you have the same business approach, it's going to help you, but it's also going to hurt you if you keep missing on players. And you have to replace them. And then you really have to rely on, because if you missed on the quarterback, then you're relying on Tanner McKee right now to elevate you, because you can't pay somebody else $50 million. So that's sort of the give and take of what the Eagles are doing. And they've hit on all the players.
Yeah, we'll see if it keeps up right now here for the Birds. They have been great. Let's get to a couple more Super Chats. Thank you all for the Super Chats today. Appreciate each and every one of you. Dank Bird Gang says, I'm taking the BLG approach, Kansas City in the AFC until someone takes them out.
Yeah, I call it you can give it BLG. I call it the Ric Flair approach. You got to be the man, you got to beat the man. So in the AFC, the Eagles did it in the encompassing NFL world, but in the AFC, somebody still got to beat KC. I understand that thought process, but boy, yeah, I don't think they're nearly as talented as Baltimore or even Buffalo. I think I think you saw Travis Kelce. I'm surprised he didn't retire, to be honest.
Me too.
I think you see some of and you've seen it in the past. I mean, any quarterback, if they're not comfortable, and if you have a tremendous pass rush, it doesn't matter. Tom Brady on down, including Patrick Mahomes, you cannot play offense if you can't block people. And they traded their best offensive lineman, who people crap on because he played poorly at left tackle in the Super Bowl. But he's not a left tackle. He's only out there because they couldn't find a left tackle. And he was forced to play out there. And I'm talking about Joe Thuney, who we have one listener who thinks Joe Thuney stinks, which is absurd, but he's not a left tackle. And that's what he was forced to play. So they got and I believe because Andy, again, is at nobody values offensive line play more than Andy Reid. And that's the reason, again, the Eagles value offensive line play so much. And that's where it all turned around for them when it came to offensive line play, because of the value Andy Reid placed on it. So I'm sure they'll fix it, better than most teams, but they're in that transition phase. Other than Creed Humphrey's very, all-pro center, maybe the best center in the NFL. Trey Smith is very good. Now you're talking about Jalen Moore or Josh Simmons at left tackle, Mike Caliendo at left guard, Jawan Taylor at right tackle, who's terrible.
He was one of the worst graded tackles in football last year, wasn't he?
Yeah, it ain't good. It ain't good. And they're in that, and that's what happens in the it'll happen here eventually. Already you see Jason Kelce, the amazing sort of transition to Cam Jurgens. That's rare. Tyler Steen, I'm hopefully he holds up, but I don't think he's going to play as good as Mekhi Becton. Lane eventually is going to age out, unfortunately. Same thing with Jordan.
Feels like never with Lane, but you are right. It will eventually happen.
And Landon, I'm more concerned about the Landon Dickerson. He might be the most. He's a great player. He might be the best left guard in football, but I am a little bit worried about his knees.
Long term, I am.
Yeah.
What were you going to say though? He could be the most what?
Most underrated player on this. Like he's a legit superstar. It's hard to be a superstar offensive line, but Jason was able to do it. Jordan's able to do it. Lane's able to do it. Like he's every bit as good as them. Every bit. Yeah. Every bit as good as them. Like I said, we're going to be doing our top 25. There's going to be a lot of freaking offensive linemen at the top of that list.
Got to be 4 of them, man. I think there's got to be 4 of them near the top. Pretty incredible that the Eagles have done. Maybe 3 of them near the top. We'll see where Cam Jurgens falls if he falls on the list. Good stuff there. Dank, thank you for the super chat, brother. Eduardo checks in. He says, who's your dark horse in the AFC to upset the big 3? That's a good question because you got obviously the Ravens, the Chiefs, and the Bills are the big 3 of the AFC. Who you got, John?
That's a good question.
Hard to buy into the Bengals.
It's usually, a lot of people are buying into Denver. I'm not one of those people. I'm more of a Charger guy because I think Harbaugh's a good coach, at least in the short term before people get sick of him. So, and obviously they have a very talented quarterback. So I would lean Chargers or I'm going down with the ship. I'm an Aaron Rodgers truther.
Oh
Look,
my gosh.
They win 9 games with anybody.
I know. It's a good point by you. I don't disagree. I didn't want to go there because I did this last year with the Jets and I made myself look dumb.
Well, I did too. But Pittsburgh's a little bit different. Pittsburgh's a much better organization. Now, I don't like the way that they handled the quarterback situation in recent years, and I don't like the way they handled it this year. Panicking and going to 1 year, but that's all we're talking about. We're talking about 1 year. And I think if you look, and I always point out, I think people are stunned if they will be stunned if they look at what Aaron Rodgers did on a personal level last year with that shitty team. It's not like he was, I mean, the arm talent is still there. And if they win 9 games, can they win 11? Can they get in the dance? Can they get hot at the right time? Sure. But I would say Chargers first and then Steelers second.
That's good. That's good too. I don't know why I can't buy the Chargers. Justin Herbert, John, I know he's so talented, but there's just something about him I can't buy into. Maybe it's the damn 4 picks in the playoff. I don't know what it is.
I think a lot of people with the Chargers, it's pre-Jim Harbaugh Chargers, which I agree with. That dude's a good coach. Now it's short term.
No, I like Harbaugh. Yeah, I like Harbaugh.
It's short term, but he gets people in the right direction, and then he pisses people off, and it's very, people forget his San Francisco teams. I mean, so I think the Chargers are different. I think for many years they had issues at the top in coaching and leadership and that kind of thing. I don't think that's the case anymore. And that's why I lean to them. Now, Denver would be the hotter team. Like everybody thinks Denver's. I'm not sold on Bo Nix. And I'd rather have Jim Harbaugh than Sean Payton. And I don't think a lot of people agree with me. I think he's.
I don't know. I think I might agree with you. The Denver defense is pretty good, though.
Yeah, they're not a bad team. But Kansas City's still going to be good. They're not going to fall off the face of the earth. And if you're, from my perspective, because I like the Chargers better, I think they're the 3rd best team in that division. So, it's hard to come out like that. And Cincinnati, they're so badly run. In a lot of ways, I feel bad for Joe Burrow. Because if he could get in another situation, Katie barred the door, but he's in the situation he's in. It's part of life.
If they don't make the playoffs this year, you think he's going to ask out?
No, didn't he already sign his extension? I mean,
he did, but I don't know. I mean, I don't know how much longer he could stay there. He's going to stay in Cincinnati all through his prime. They can't even get to the playoffs.
Happens to players. Well, they went to the Super Bowl. I mean,
that feels like another, like 10 years.
They should have won that Super Bowl too.
Yeah, they should have. That was the Rams Super Bowl, right? Yeah,
yeah. But they couldn't again.
Couldn't block.
I think he took 6-7 sacks tonight. They couldn't block.
It's amazing they even made the Super Bowl with the offensive line they had that year.
Exactly. So many. It's like, I don't know where it's similar to the stupid criticism of Jalen Hurts when they say he's got a good supporting cast, which is just the dumbest criticism ever. Because again, show me the team that didn't have a good supporting cast that won the Super Bowl. That's one of the dumbest arguments ever. The other, on the flip side, the assumption that any quarterback is going to overcome the inability to block a defensive front when you've already seen what it's done to Tom Brady and Patrick Mahomes and Peyton Manning and everybody down the road. It's just absurd. Nobody's overcoming that. There's guys like Lamar and Jalen and Daniels now who can, pull stuff out of their whats at times, but not consistently. If you can't block people, you can't play consistent offensive football. Just can't.
Wolfie, I'm going to get to your super chat. I'm going to go to Eduardo's here because he hit on the question that we were just talking about. He says, "I got Steelers or Texans. F it. Give us Houston just so we can beat them and make CJ."
I should have mentioned Houston. That's I'm
Yeah.
glad he mentioned that. That is a really talented team. Eduardo. That is a really. I should have mentioned Houston.
Yeah, they got a lot of guys
doing it. Yeah, I was just doing it off the top of my head. They're a good choice. Quarterback's good, defense is good. They got pass rushers, they got cornerbacks. I was talking about Andy. I still remember when Andy talking about it was give me the quarterback, two offensive tackles, 2 edge rushers, and 2 cornerbacks, and I'll figure out the rest. And that was a long time ago. Games changed a little bit, but they have a quarterback. They haven't figured out the tackle thing yet, but they revamped their whole offensive line. It should be better. It's not going to be great. They got maybe the best edge rushing duo in the NFL. And we're talking about Baltimore secondary. Baltimore doesn't have the best secondary. They do. With Stingley and Petrie and Lassiter and CJ now and Jimmy Ward, et cetera, et cetera. They're a very good team, Houston.
No doubt. I like both of those options there. Steelers or Texans are all pretty good. John, let's do this real quick for the NFC. If we establish the top 3 in the NFC as Eagles, Lions, I'll go top 4. Eagles, Lions, Rams, and Commanders. Who's the best 3 to upset, or who's the best option for the dark horse in the NFC to upset the big 4?
San Francisco.
Really? You think they're coming way back to the pack this year, huh?
Well, they had a bunch of injuries last year.
Oh, yeah.
And if they're healthy and they got, whatever, what were the 3rd or 4th place schedule? They might have a 4th. Were they in last? I don't know. Much easier schedule. So if they stay healthy, and they have Trent Williams for 17 games, and
they
have
were last year, John.
Yeah, so they have a last place schedule, and they have Christian McCaffrey for 17 games, and Brandon Ayuk is healthy. Yeah, look out for San Francisco.
I can't buy it.
I'm telling you, man. NFL moves quickly. NFL moves quickly. Don't underestimate their injuries last year. I mean, when you lose players like they lost, you can't replace them. And, they gave up Debo, which I don't think is a bad thing because they still have Ayuk who's back. Juwan Jennings maybe was already the third, the best 3rd receiver in football. They have the young kid who almost died, got shot, Ricky Pearsall, but he's healthy now. Kittle's still Kittle. You got Juszczyk, which is not that big of a deal, but as fullbacks go, he's the best fullback. I still have some questions on the offensive line, absent Trent Williams, but that's a lot of teams. You still got Bosa. They add, Mikael Williams. Who knows? Fred Warner's still there. All due respect to Zach Bond, that's the best linebacker in football. And then I'm not in love with their secondary, but again, the last place schedule will help. And if you get McCaffrey back healthy and he plays, which is big if with his history, I mean, right there, that's a guy nobody can deal with.
I don't know what McCaffrey's going to be anymore. Like, is he going to be the same McCaffrey? I don't know.
I'm just saying if he is, and I don't know if he is, but if he is, nobody can deal with him. So right there, and I'm not the biggest Brock Purdy fan, but he's capable. I can't believe they're paying him what they're paying him.
Yeah, got a big deal this offseason.
But they have to. I actually can believe it. I shouldn't say that. I can believe you have to. I'm just not.
I don't know. I honestly thought for a second that Kyle would say, let's keep the revolving door, and I'll just draft somebody in the 5th round, maybe take a Kyle McCord, somebody like that. I thought they were going to go that route, John, not pay Purdy, get a quarterback that would slot in for Kyle. Kyle would probably make him into a guy who earned $50 million again, like he has with how many quarterbacks. And I thought they were going to go that route.
No, I mean, look, I'm not the biggest Brock Purdy fan, but the assumption, I mean, they drafted Trey Lance at what, number 3? He does deserve some credit. Kyle's a big part of it.
Yeah, he definitely deserves credit, but Trey Lance is like the antithesis of like all the quarterbacks that Kyle's been able to get the most out of, I feel like.
Yeah, I'm just saying it's not as easy. Now, I'm a big Kyle McCord guy already. I do think that would be a perfect situation for him with Kyle Shanahan, but there's no guarantees. And when you get a player who's played at the level of Brock Purdy, that's part of the problem. As ESPN with their stupid video, I'm looking at Brock Purdy. He's played pretty well. I think there's some limitations. I think everything's got to be great around him, but he's got a great schemer, great play caller. And if they're healthy, last place schedule.
Yeah.
And then I guess you got to throw the Vikings into the mix because of McCarthy. If McCarthy is CJ Stroud, I mean, they have a lot of talent.
I don't think he's going to be CJ Stroud, but we'll see. I mean, he
that's why I don't.
He wasn't even a dominant player on his college team when they won. Like
that's one of the reasons why I couldn't believe he was a first-round pick, because if you're that good, similar to Ace Bailey with the 2 Rutgers kids coming up in the NBA draft, like if you're that good, why the hell can't you make the tournament? Everybody makes the tournament. And they got the 2 of the 3 best players in the NBA draft, and they can't win? Like, that's a red flag to me. In the case of J.J. McCarthy, they won, so it was a little bit different. But the point is, if you have a top 10 pick in the draft and you're taking the football out of his hands, now, to be fair, it's also Jim Harbaugh. Jim likes to run the ball. Jim's an old school guy. You know, if he was in a different college, if he was with Lincoln Riley, maybe we're having a different discussion. But that's one of the reasons I can't believe in J.J. McCarthy either. I'm saying if he turns into a legitimate quarterback, there's a shitload of talent on that team.
Yeah, I agree. Eduardo again hits one of the ones I was thinking. He says dark horse for NFC for me would be Tampa or Carolina. I don't see Carolina, but I do see Tampa.
Tampa's a good team, but I don't think they're a great team.
They got a solid O-line, and they got a bunch of weapons everywhere. Now, I don't know about their defense, but you got Todd Bowles. Obviously, their defense always pretty much overperforms from what they should be with their talent. I feel like that team could be all right.
Well, they're going to be all right. I think they're the best team in the South again, but I think there's a ceiling to them. I thought we were talking Super Bowl, and Carolina's not a Super Bowl. I thought we were talking Super Bowl contenders. Carolina, come on. I mean, will they be better? They have to be better, but no, not even in the realm. Yeah, Tampa's a very good team, but I don't think they have that ceiling. Like I'm talking about ceiling teams that if everything goes well, they can make a run. And I just don't think they're there. Remember, Mike Evans is getting older. And so is Chris Godwin, for that matter.
But they just drafted Emeka Egbuka.
Yeah, all right. What's he done? I mean, nothing,
but they did reload with a receiver in the first round.
The proven nature of why everybody likes him is Mike Evans and Chris Godwin. That's the proven nature of it. Now, maybe Egbuka is better than both. I doubt he's better than Mike Evans.
Nah,
But,
that's a tough one.
But I mean, those are the guys who've been stars, Mike Evans and Chris Godwin. And I think they're both on the downside of their careers. Bucky Irving had a good rookie season, but I think, he's a little bit limited from a 3-down. He was supposed to be the complimentary guy to Rachaad White, and he was just better. So I don't think they have by any means the dominating lead back. Now, nobody's got Saquon or Derrick Henry, but the true running back one. I like Baker, but again, he's good. He's not great. The offensive line, Wirfs is great, but nobody else is great. Grant Barton, I like. Luke Gedeke, not in love with. Cody Malk, not in love with. Sua Opeta's still down there. Good guy, Sua.
Can I ask why you don't love Baker?
Well, I think I just said he's good. He's not great. He's in the, for many years that Derek Carr, Kirk Cousins category for me. Like
that makes sense.
He's very good, but I don't think he has that upside unless everything else is around. And then you start talking about that defense. You're right. Todd Bowles, they're going to be better. There's a lot of age on that defense.
A lot of age.
Now, and Levante David keeps playing and playing and playing, but I mean, and then Vita Vea is everybody's like Vita. All of a sudden, Vita's getting up there, and with his body and the way he plays, he takes a lot of punishment. Reddick's down there creating issues again. Now Winfield will be back. That's big because he missed a bunch of time. He's a great player. And Todd's great. So I think they're a good team. They're a playoff team. But if I'm talking about somebody who could break through to make it to the Super Bowl, then I got to look for the higher upside. And I would say San Francisco is a higher upside. Partially schedule-wise. And the Vikings have a higher upside from a talent perspective. Yeah. I mean, that's the team that I think should be disgusted that they should have went for it with Rodgers. They should have went for it. But then you're doing the same thing. You're doing the same thing. You're pushing a year, and then you don't know if McCarthy can play. So I get it. But if you look at, I got to pull up their roster. They might have the second best roster to the Eagles. I mean, their biggest issue over the years has been offensive line, but they had two great tackles. They fixed tackles. Darisaul's back. He's tremendous. Brian O'Neill's been one of probably the second best right tackle to Lane. They draft Donovan Jackson in the first round. Now, first round pick, who knows? But they signed Ryan Kelly, who's like a 3-time Pro Bowl center. They signed Will Fries from Penn State, who got $88 million and was everybody wanted. They have Jefferson, everybody knows. They have Addison, everybody knows. Jalen Naylor's one of the better number 3 receivers in the NFL. They have Aaron Jones and Jordan Mason. They traded for Jordan Mason in the backfield. On defense, they added our old buddy Javon Hargrave and Jonathan Allen to Jonathan Grenard and Andrew Van Ginkel. Cashman is unbelievable. Corner's still an issue, which is why I thought they would have hired Alexander. They're loaded, but they don't have the quarterback. So,
can you imagine? See, this is where I like Baker, and I understand what you're saying with Baker, and I don't necessarily disagree. But I mean, last year, and I know stats aren't the full picture, but 71% completions last year, 4,500 passing yards, 41 touchdowns to 16 picks, and a 107 rating. I mean, Baker Mayfield had a good year.
And that's why you can look at some of those Cousins years and some of those
he had crazy
years
too. That's why I liked your comp. Yeah, they had that. There was a good comp.
And those guys are really, really good quarterbacks. And it's not like they can't win. They could have won. And Baker can certainly win because he's a really good professional quarterback. But if you're looking for that extra oomph, I don't think it's there. In other words, to carry people. But it's the same thing. It's very hard to, as we saw with Patrick Mahomes and Tom in certain Super Bowls, can't do it by yourself. So, I mean, part of it is, but I don't think they have as much offensive talent as other people do. What I think they have is some big names at receiver that are descending pretty quickly.
I don't disagree.
And maybe Egbuka corrects that, but that's a big if. And then when you start to look around, like, all right, yeah, like we're projecting young players in Philadelphia all the time. It's like, but you're a lot more comfortable saying AJ Brown's going to play really well, Devontae Smith's going to play really well, than Kaylee Ringo's going to play really well, and Drew Makuba's going to play really well. So, I mean, yeah, they might turn into good players, but AJ and Devontae are good players. So there's a big difference between projection and demonstrated performance. Nope. We're frozen up again, but Zander, at least I am. I can't hear Zander. So Wolfie Wolf, don't worry. I thwarted Redskins podcast yesterday about them having the best wide receiver group in the NFC East. What is your best guess at McLaurin's contract? It's going to be big. But I'm with you. I mean, no. People are saying they have the best wide receiver group in the NFL. That's a very good player.
You think they're definitely going to pay him?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you pay your good players.
He's 29. He's going to be 30 in the start of the year.
Yeah, I mean, that's part of it. It's probably going to be
AJ's 27 right now, turning 28.
My assumption is they'll try to keep it shorter for that reason. But we'll see how it shakes out. But yeah, they're going to pay him. But to call them the best wide receiver group in a division with AJ Brown, Devontae Smith, and they obviously don't think much of Jahan Dotson, but sometimes they picked him as 16th overall in the draft. They picked him to be a number one receiver. He's not a number one receiver. We constantly talk about pedigree and its meaning, but there were more expectations on Jahan Dotson in Washington for those reasons. So they think he stinks. And Philadelphia comes in as the third receiver, and a lot of people still think he stinks because he doesn't get a lot of traffic. But as you saw in the playoffs and late in the season, that dude can make some plays, especially when he's the third receiver, and he's never seeing a double team because of the other guys on the field with him. He's a much better fit here than he was there. And I'm just not a big Deebo Samuel fan. One of the most overrated players in football. Should be given Kyle Shanahan part of his checks because, it's interesting, though. If anybody can do some of the similar things that Kyle did with him, it would be Cliff Kingsbury. So maybe it's a little bit better. But I remember when he was trying to get out of San Francisco the first time, and Jody and I were having that discussion. And I said, be careful what you wish for, because at the time he wanted to go back, I think, to Carolina. I think that was the rumor, and he wanted to go home. And I'm like, be careful what you wish for. You're a manufactured touch guy. And if you don't have Kyle Shanahan manufacturing those touches, all of a sudden you're left to your own devices as a route runner. I mean, that's not going to go well. Now, they ultimately worked it out in San Francisco, but yeah, I'm not the biggest Debo guy. Drops the football too much, but big name, so people get excited by it. Yeah, I'm comfortable saying the Eagles have. I mean, the Eagles are ridiculous at the top of the depth chart at wide receiver. It's ridiculous, especially considering where it was. It's amazing how quickly people get spoiled, too. The Eagles couldn't find a freaking wide receiver that saved their lives. And now they have A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith.
Which is why the Jalen Reagor pick was actually a great pick.
I wouldn't go that far.
You took the guy in 2020, though, and you end up with one of the best receiving cores in football in 22, 23, and 24. If you don't make that pick, John, may look a lot.
Yeah, but that's the old backwards. Yeah, let's make excuses for Howie, and Howie doesn't.
Well, I'm not making excuses, but I do think
knows.
it would have unfolded differently if that didn't happen.
Of course, if you have Jefferson, you don't have. That's what it really is. If you have Jefferson, you don't have Devontae or probably AJ because he's too good, and you're probably not as good overall because you didn't have to, carpet bomb it, so to speak, to fix it. And it had more to do with Reagor. It wasn't just Reagor. For years, they couldn't get wide receivers. I remember when people were convincing themselves that Jordan Matthews, because he had volume, was a big-time receiver. Again, 20-point score on a bad NBA team. If you don't have any receivers, somebody's going to catch the football. The Greg Ward stuff, insanity. It was bad. Travis Fulgham. Oh my God. People were talking themselves into he was Terrell Owens for a
he had like a 4-week period that he was like the best receiver I've ever seen, and then he just dropped off the face of the planet.
Yeah, I mean, they're NFL players. They can spike, but the consistency is what is difficult.
That's a good point. It's a good point. Thanks everybody for the super chats this morning. Great stuff there. When we come back, Slager, if you're in here, we're going to talk a little void years. Do you think that was a fun segment though, to kind of set up the NFL season and what's coming up this year with the teams and the way that it all changes around the board. So great stuff there. Eduardo, thanks for kicking it off for the great super chat, brother. Appreciate everybody. Hit that like button. We've been killing it on likes these last couple of days. So keep smashing that like button for Birds 365. We appreciate you. It's the dog days of summer for the NFL fans of the world. But if you're listening right now, you're a real NFL fan. That's what I love about each and every one of you that are here. So we appreciate that. Hit that like button. We'll be right back on Birds 365.
Welcome to the Jet Setters and the High Rollers, to the Shot Takers and the Tastemakers. Welcome to the Viewfinders, the Thrill Seekers, and the Night Owls. Welcome to everything you could possibly want on one 5-mile island. Welcome to the Wildwoods. Book your stay today.
The following is a real testimonial from the father of a young injured victim.
I didn't think she was going to make it.
Major Perry's daughter was the victim of a horrific accident caused by someone else's negligence.
If you don't find the right counselor, law firm that you're looking for, you will get lost in the wilderness.
Badly injured? Call the Fritz and Bianculli Law Firm at 215-458-2222 and find out why they say, "We got this."
In our hometown, we all look out for each other. We go the extra mile to lend a helping hand.
Thank you.
We step up to keep our communities going strong. And at Independence Blue Cross, we're here to keep you going strong. We've been deeply rooted in our communities for more than 85 years. And that connection to members has earned us our spot as the #1 health insurer in the region. So while you look out for your neighbors, know IBX is always looking out for you.
Your financial future is on the line. Are you ready for what's next? At Leone & Company Wealth Management, we help young professionals, business owners, and pre-retirees navigate the complexities of building and protecting wealth. For young professionals, we'll help you grow your wealth, plan for your future, and make the most of your hard-earned dollars. For business owners, we provide strategies to protect your company, manage risks, and create a lasting legacy for both your business and personal wealth. For pre-retirees, we'll design a plan to secure your retirement, ensuring you can live comfortably and confidently in your next chapter. Whether you're just starting out, managing a thriving business, or preparing for retirement, we're here to help you take control of your financial future. The first consultation is on us. Get the advice you need without the cost. Let's make your financial vision a reality. Take the next step. Scan the QR code to schedule your free consultation today. And of course, go Birds.
Welcome to the Jet Setters and the High Rollers, to the Thrill Seekers and the Night Owls. Welcome to everything you could possibly want on one 5-mile island. Welcome to the Wildwoods. Book your stay today.
EAGLES, Eagles.
Welcome back in, everybody, to Birds 365 here on JAKIB Sports. It's a Thursday edition, June 19th, as we get closer and closer to the NFL season, probably somewhere around 78, 80 days. I'll give you guys that number in just a second. Still plenty to talk about here. We appreciate everybody for being here. Hit the like button. I'm your host, Zander Krause. That's my co-host, John McMullen. Make sure you follow him on X at JF McMullen and follow me on all the platforms at Zander Krause. Appreciate all of you guys. Johnny Mac, I want to talk a little Howie Roseman and a little bit of cap room, all right, because the Eagles have been crushing it and dominating this area of the NFL, but there is now threats to the way that they do business because they are using it and exploiting it and taking advantage of it, and I think just doing good business at a much greater extent than any other team in the NFL. What's your thoughts on what's going on with the cap and how this might impact the Eagles moving forward?
Well, ultimately, I believe it will go away to a certain degree, or they'll change it a little bit, and that has to do with basically rich teams versus poor teams, which is why the cap exists. You're trying to develop a system where everybody's equal, but then you have smart people, and Jake Rosenberg and Bryce Johnson are the Eagles cap guys. Have been. Jake obviously left. Now it's Bryce Johnson. So they're the guys who actually are the experts at the manipulation of the cap. But the issue is more with some of the richer teams. And by the way, it's not necessarily a fair criticism because there are far richer teams than Philadelphia from just a standpoint, Dallas, and they don't do it. So, they can do it, but they don't do it. So that's not the Eagles' fault. But in the NFL world, it's about keeping things as equal as possible. And it's a very reactive league, and this is something they didn't envision happening. And it's happened. And I remember Jason Fitzgerald from Over the Cap pointed out that they give you an example of how things have exploded and what the NFL is concerned about. In 2013, 8 teams used voidable years in contracts, only 8 of the 32 teams. And there was about $40 million mixed up in dead money in those voidable year contracts. That's it. Fast forward to this year, 26 of the 32 teams use them, and the dead money is over 2.2 billion. B with a B. Billion. And
but the Eagles account for almost 25% of that, don't they?
Yeah, 20%? They're about 400, I think, 400 and something, and they're number one. But there are 26 teams that use them, and they're about, I think, 50% ahead of number 2. So they definitely use it more than anybody else.
Do you have the name of the teams that don't use them? 26, you said, 32.
I do not have it in front of me. I can ask Jason, but
that's fine.
Yeah.
I just was wondering if there's a clear disparity in how good their rosters are compared to the others.
There probably is. And and I will try to find out. But yeah, so from the Eagles standpoint, it's the reason why they're able to get so many big name players under contract. But again, as we talked about early in the show, you also have to hit on your evaluation, because if you're paying a bunch of guys top of the market money at their particular position and they turn into flops, well, you're in trouble. And that's what the Eagles, I think the part of it that people like, they think it's a trick that you can just do this and keep doing it. You can't keep doing it. This is the exact season. As I said, we're in the eye of the hurricane right now. They're not spending money this off season. In case you haven't noticed, 12 free agent contracts. Azeez Ojulari got the most at $3 million. They are not spending money in this off season. I hope people recognize that, right? People recognize that, don't they? Or am I mean, they're in the midst of this because they have spent, as I've said, they have spent more cash over the past decade than anybody else, and they're trying to rebuild the cash coffers for what's coming. And that's why they're approaching this offseason, because next offseason, you got a massive contract coming for Jalen Carter, and perhaps a contract extension, and perhaps even Nolan Smith. So, and who knows, maybe even Kelly Ringo. So since we're bringing up Ringo, if he hits and starts playing at a high level. So the big money contracts with the young players are coming, and you have to prepare for that. It's more than just 1 year. But that's why the Eagles are approaching this offseason the way they have been. And it's much more about cash than cap space, which I think people misunderstand quite a bit.
How far out are we, John, from this being a big impact on the Eagles?
Well, that's collective bargaining. That's another thing. I think, I had one guy when we were talking about this before, they'll never get 24, 32 teams to agree. It's not a rule change. This will be a collective bargaining change. This will be like changing the first round picks and their salary scale like they did. And
right.
This is collective bargaining. This is not.
But what's the advantage in this for the players?
There is no advantage, because it means lesser salaries. That's the advantage.
So why would the players want to do this?
They won't. And the NFL and the union will fight against it. However, the union has a history of not winning many of these battles, and the battles they do win are generally about quality of living issues. I will say, not financial issues. So the thought is the league wants to tamper down on voidable years, because they didn't expect people would take advantage of this loophole to the degree that they have. And B, it's gotten overwhelming from a financial perspective. And it's the history of business that goes far beyond the NFL. You have management trying to limit salaries, and you have employees trying to increase salaries. That's basically, and voidable years has certainly been good for the players. No question about it.
We'll see what ends up happening. You're saying, though, the more players will win if it's about, hey, we want less practices in the summer or something like that. They'll win that, but they don't win when it comes to the checkbooks. The billionaires win. That doesn't surprise me, J-Mac.
It has been the history. Now, baseball, it's different, but they have not proven to be that strong. And do you really want an issue where they're shutting down the sport? Because one of the reasons baseball is no longer the number one sport in America is because of all the strikes over the years. Well, all the strikes over the years has done wonders for the players and their salaries and their power, but they had to shut down the sport to get there.
Yes.
And the NFL's had strikes, but not recently, but they've had strikes, but not near to the degree of baseball.
Is the desire to get rid of this or hone it back or whatever, put a cap on it, is it fueled by parity and competition, or is it more fueled by the financial element?
Financial. I
Like
mean,
they're
they
not
want
saying the Eagles are too good because they do this
no,
too much.
no.
We got to get rid of this.
That they want parity. I mean, the whole league's based on parity, but that's part of it. But the financial, just the numbers I told you. 2013, $40 million. 2025, $2.2 billion.
Crazy. But I just don't get like how that's a negative thing for them.
It's a negative
money's
thing
being
because
spent anyway, like we always say,
it's a negative thing from the owner's perspective because it raises salaries. So, evil Montgomery Burns.
Yeah, right.
If you're a Simpsons fan, they want to limit salaries, bottom line, as much as they can. And they want to make more money.
So what's the solution for the
issue.
Eagles? Like, let's just say this happens, and it might be far out, by the way. We might not be looking at something like that. I mean, it might be 3-4 years out. We'll see. But what's it look like then? Because like right now, I think an Eagles fan can conceivably believe that we would keep all these great defensive players that we talk about that are under 26 right now, right? You're like, oh, well, we did it on offense. Why wouldn't we be able to do it there? I think that's just the generalized thought is that we were told we wouldn't be able to keep Devontae and AJ. We have Devontae and AJ. Then we had Saquon. We got the best offensive line, and they're all top paid. Jalen's top paid. We're like, I think Eagles fans, rightfully so, are in a world where it's like, if we want to pay him, we're going to pay him. How does that change? Does that change completely? Does the build look different? What do you think changes with that stuff?
To be determined, because I mean, that's like asking me to predict in 2013 that the Eagles would do this with voidable years. Like nobody knew they were going to do this.
Right.
That's why a loophole is a loophole, because it's a loophole. So that's why Jake Rosenberg deserves all the credit I've given him over the years. That's the reason.
We should try and get him on, John Jake. I don't know if he would, but we should try.
Yeah. And Bryce Johnson does it now. They'll probably find another loophole, but can I guarantee it? No.
Bryce Johnson as good as Jake Rosenberg?
I mean, I'm not an accountant, but I mean, to me, Jake did it first, so I give Jake the credit. But maybe he's
Jake
better.
is the Vic Fangio of cap manipulation, baby.
Yeah, you can make that argument. Yeah, he did a phenomenal job. Like, yeah, I think because Howie gets all the credit, and Howie's in charge. I mean, but yeah, he's not the guy doing the contracts. People think that, which I think they do.
No, I think they do. I think you're right. I think people do think that. Yeah.
But yeah, Howie gives them credit. Howie brings them up quite a bit. But yeah, I think people just think he does all that, and no, he's in charge and delegates. So Bryce is in charge of contracts now, but yeah, I it's been a very effective method for them. But voidable years in general is basically, it's basically dummy years. It's accounting. It's dummy years to better handle your cap situation in the immediacy. So, if you sign somebody for 10 million, to make it simple, for 10 million over 5 years, you can spread that out over the 5 years, and it's 2 million on the cap per year. Well, plus if you sign somebody to a 4-year contract, you can stick on 4 voidable years, dummy years on the back of it, so you can even spread it out more. And that enables you to fit more good players in the immediacy of it, but you also have a bunch of dead money. Now that money's already gone, to your point, but it's got to be accounted for still down the road. Right. So you have less cap space. Now the Eagles have understood, and everybody else is. It's not like they're the only ones that said, "Hey, the cap keeps going up." Everybody knows it's going to keep going up because the TV deals are in place. They know ballpark estimate where it's going to be next year, the year after, and they know it's going to keep increasing. So the cap gets bigger and bigger and bigger. And their belief is they'll be able to handle the hits. But again, it comes down to evaluation. If you miss on these players you're paying big money to, it will affect you. But they have a great batting average to the point of the players that they're paying really big money to. Great batting average.
So what would be the change? They would get rid of void years overall. They would lessen it from how much you can do. Like if it's unlimited right now, they would put, you can only have up to 2 voidable years in any contract. And then it would, like, what's the change? Because
they might limit, they might,
what the threat is though to the Eagles. Like what is it that they have to get all the contracts in a less amount of void years? So it's clumped up a little bit more. It's harder to maneuver. Like what do you see with that?
Yeah, they might limit the years. They might remove them. They might say no more dummy years. It could be anything, or anything in between. It could be limited to 2 years. It could be limited to 1 year. It could be removed altogether. But it's also very complicated because you already have all these contracts. Again, 26 teams. You can't just erase them tomorrow, even in collective bargaining. Like they exist, they're filed. So they have to be grandfathered in. So it's not like this is immediate danger, but it seems pretty evident to people around the league and people who follow this stuff that eventually the league is going to make a move to try to do something. And again, that might be limiting the voidable years you can use. It might be removing them totally for once all these contracts are exhausted. You might say 2028, last year you can put a voidable year in the contract and everybody's got to shift at that point. But it's got more to do with the lesser owners who don't have the financial wherewithal to handle some of the things the more well-equipped teams can do. But Jeffrey Lurie is not even close. He's not even top 10 as far as richest NFL owners. And in fact, I don't even know if he's in the top half. He's nowhere near the bottom, but he's also nowhere near the top. So it's not like, it's just any of those guys, they're truly, rich guys. They're all rich, but there's
Right.
There's levels of wealth. And the Denver is the Walmart fortune. And, there are off the chart rich people. Jerry Jones is in that category. Stan Kroenke's in that category. David Tepper's in that category. He's got the worst team in the NFL, or has. So, it's not just being rich, but it's more about the Mike Browns of the world and the Mark Davis of the world who don't have a lot of money compared to the people that do have a lot of money.
Well, I'd almost blame them less than you blame a guy like Stan or David Tepper, like you just said. They have the ability to do it. Mike Brown and the Raiders owner, whatever is out there,
Mark Davis.
They don't have the ability to do. I don't think it's because they don't want to. I think it's because they don't have the cash.
Well, they don't. A lot, and it's another thing. When you sign a player to these big contracts, you have to have the guaranteed money in escrow. It doesn't matter when the signing bonus is. Like a lot of it is, deferred a year or two down the road, and it just populates into the contract. But everything that you guaranteed has to be in escrow when you sign the contract. And there are teams that cannot do that. So that, and I know people get bored with the business part of it, but that is real. Like you talk about Cincinnati, and for all the talk about how cheap Cincinnati has been, and they have been compared to most teams, but they paid Joe Burrow, they paid Jamar Chase, they paid T. Higgins, but they got to get all their ducks in a row before they can do that. Like they have to plan for months to do that. So it's a little bit more difficult, to say the least. And that it's far more, and I get it, the whole filled up mentality, everybody's against this, yada, yada, yada. It's far more about the business part of it than anything happening on the field, with the Eagles.
It is fair to say, though, that it will impact the Eagles more than any other team simply because of the usage that they've done with the void years, correct?
Yeah. From a number standpoint, they use it the most and they spend the most money on it. And again, that's more of a strategy based thing, because when players are still on your cap, like Jason Kelsey and Fletcher Cox and Brandon Graham retiring, they still have to pay them guys on the salary cap, after they're gone. And even somebody like Slay who's still playing, Jeffrey doesn't care. Other owners care. The money's already gone. It's just accounting. It's just a number at this point. But people are different. Like the money, they're not spending money. They're not giving money to these players that are still on voidable years. That money's already gone. That money's already paid. It's just
so you're just
accounting.
like allowed to like pay the money and then be like, oh, this isn't going to affect our we're going to kick it into 2028.
Yeah.
I don't really get how that works, but
it's an accounting.
It's goofy though. Like it's not so clear cut. Like AJ, you're getting the money now, but the dead cap is going to affect in 2028.
Oh, so and if you heard that Nicole Lynn interview,
which I did,
like Nicole is explaining, like this is how. All right, the cap number is not going to be that big.
Yeah,
but you're still getting your $50 million because the Eagles use voidable years and roster bonuses and yada 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 instead of straight salary. It's just accounting. All it is accounting. And the NFL did not envision this. And again, Jake probably deserves the most.
They're cooking the books, Z.
Well, yeah, everybody cooks the books. And business, this is part of business, unfortunately. Or is it unfortunate? I don't even know if it is. It's just part of it. No, but
just the reality.
You do have less cap space, so that's the negative part of it. You have a certain amount of money to spend each year under the cap. And the more dead money you have, the less real money you have to spend. But so that's
really is the best owner in football.
Oh yeah. Well, I've been saying that for a while. Might be the best owner.
But it's not like it's John McMullen saying it, not an Eagles fan. Like he's actually the best, objectively speaking, probably the best owner in football with the way he handles his team.
Yeah, I think the assumption is everybody wants to win. Not everybody. In fact, I would say
I never assume. Anytime there's money involved,
I would say there are far more NFL owners that are happy with just the valuation going up than winning. And Jeffrey's not one of them. So that's half the battle.
Well, technically, they make the same money whether they win 8 games or 14, don't they? I mean, maybe slightly different based on merch.
I mean, a little bit more. But everything's a drop in a bucket. I think that's
compared to the
merchandising. The TV rights are everything in professional sports.
Now, I do think this though. Are the Eagles a more valuable franchise because of their Super Bowl win? They might not have made that much more money in 2024, but they obviously went up in value, right? They've become more of a entity.
Well, you know what valuations are, Forbes valuations and everybody else are worth. They're not worth the paper they're printed on. The Lakers just got sold for $10 billion. Like one thing that Forbes can't seem to figure out is brand means more than anything else. That's why the Cowboys will always be more valuable than the Eagles or anybody else. Yankees, Lakers.
Yeah, like even the Patriots, right? 6 wins. They're not more valuable than the Cowboys.
Washington for all those years. And ultimately, valuations don't mean shit if nobody's willing to buy it for that. In the case of the Lakers, I don't know what their valuation was, but it wasn't $10 billion.
Who bought him?
The guy who owns the Dodgers, and he was a minority owner of the Lakers.
Guy owns the Dodgers and the Lakers.
Yeah. Well, Dodgers are another one. I should put in that category. But yeah, brand means everything, and for some reason, people can't catch up to that. And yeah. So everybody, I saw a bunch of, what are the Cowboys worth that the Lakers want for $10 billion?
12.
Which is an interesting question, but it doesn't matter because Jerry's not selling them. So what does it matter?
Yeah. I don't know. You think when Jerry passes, maybe the family hangs it up, or probably not? Probably
you never
not, right?
know. You never know what the
they are all entrenched in it, though. I mean, I watched that. I told you.
I have no idea what the Philadelphia Eagles will become once Julian takes over. Yeah. Nobody does. Is Julian married or anything, or? I don't believe so, but I don't know. I haven't done that research. I don't believe he is, but still a young guy. But I have no idea. Nobody has any idea. And generally it's not a good thing. When you have a good owner and the kids take over, generally history says it's not a good thing. But I don't want to. Julian might be better than his dad. Who knows? I don't know. But generally, he graduated from Harvard in 2017. So, say 23, 24 at the latest, early 30s, still very young guy. But, yeah, and to that comment about they're cooking the books, everybody cooks the books in every business. That's why you have accountants to cook the books. Depending on what your goal is. That doesn't mean it's illegal. Yeah, you use the accounting measures that can make you most successful. That's what the Eagles do. But if there's one thing I want to impart to Eagles fans, pay more attention to the cash spent than the cap. And I get everybody's cap. I don't give a shit about the cap.
Where are they in cash spend this year? They're down, aren't they?
Oh yeah, on purposefully, because they know what's coming. That's the whole part of the plan. That's why they've had the off season they've had. That's why I chuckled when somebody said they were going to pay $16 million to Jaire Alexander.
Yeah, no, they're not.
And again, but I get it. This shit's boring. And
I don't know. I think Eagles fans care about it now because they do know that it's a big part of our success.
Yeah, but I think everybody's so hyper-focused on the cap, not understanding the accounting of the cap, which is the far more important part of it. And it's boring. I get it, but
I don't know. I don't think it's that boring. I like talking about it.
All avoidable years is an accounting method to spread out the cap hit on respective contracts.
And if that goes away, the Eagles are going to have to shake and bake, but we don't know. We don't know what's going to happen. So we'll see how it all shakes out with the cap. Did we get any? Let me see if we got any chats about it. We got a Brian Pumper chat. He never disappoints. Let's see what Pumper has to say.
Pumper's got to be upset at the Ace Bailey news, right?
Well, it looks like this is what it's about. He says, "Told y'all not to fall for the banana in the tailpipe. We're taking Ace still. If anything, take Buddy and hold for ransom. Not letting him go for freezies." Pumper, he doesn't even want to play here, dude. He doesn't even like that organization's a dumpster fire.
Yeah. He doesn't want to play here. Well, he thinks he's a star, number one.
Darryl Morey has done an objectively awful job with the Philadelphia 76ers.
Yeah, I'm disappointed in Darryl. I thought Darryl would fix things, at least
I knew it. I said this when we hired the guy.
I'm disappointed.
Guy went to 3 different locations and traded for James Harden everywhere. And I don't know how, but each one of those trades built him up into like the Howie Roseman of football. And he's not.
James Harden is a great player.
It's a good player, but that doesn't mean just making a trade for him wherever you go makes you a great general manager. It doesn't.
No, I agree with that. I think more, he definitely made a mistake. Hindsight, he could have had Halliburton. There's so many issues, but
so many.
When somebody doesn't want to play for you and somebody thinks they're a superstar at 18, get the hell out. Like I don't care how talented you think Ace Bailey is, Pump, he can't be the third guy. That's the whole thing. He's got to have the ball in his hand, supposedly. Like, who the fuck are you?
Really?
Ace Bailey. Go play somewhere else, Pumper.
I don't know why Pumper likes him so much. Seems like the guy's a head case.
Anybody who's making those kind of demands, and look, I'm no Joel Embiid fan, or even Tyrese Maxey coming up late, or even Paul George at his age, and that was an abject disaster last season. But those are proven NBA players, and you're coming in saying, I got to be the guy. It's like, come on, dude. It's hard to say, young kid, grow up, but grow up. I would say.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with that. Good stuff, Brian Pump. Appreciate everybody here today. Good segment there on the cap and the avoidable years and where they might go. I hope, Slager, we got you the explanation you were looking for. I appreciate you with the segment, brother. Good stuff there. We'll take a commercial break, and then we'll close up the show. We got about 8 minutes when we get back from the break. So appreciate all of you guys. Hit the like button. We'll be right back on Birds 365 to wrap up a Thursday edition.
Welcome to the Jet Setters and the High Rollers, to the Shot Takers and the Tastemakers. Welcome to the Viewfinders, the Thrill Seekers, and the Night Owls. Welcome to everything you could possibly want on one 5-mile island. Welcome to the Wildwoods. Book your stay today.
The following is a real testimonial from the father of a young injured victim.
I didn't think she was going to make it.
Major Perry's daughter was the victim of a horrific accident caused by someone else's negligence.
If you don't find the right counselor, law firm that you're looking for, you will get lost in the wilderness.
Badly injured? Call the Fritz and Bianculli Law Firm at 215-458-2222 and find out why they say, "We got this."
In our hometown, we all look out for each other. We go the extra mile to lend a helping hand.
Thank you.
We step up to keep our communities going strong. And at Independence Blue Cross, we're here to keep you going strong. We've been deeply rooted in our communities for more than 85 years. And that connection to members has earned us our spot as the #1 health insurer in the region. So while you look out for your neighbors, know IBX is always looking out for you.
Your financial future is on the line. Are you ready for what's next? At Leone & Company Wealth Management, we help young professionals, business owners, and pre-retirees navigate the complexities of building and protecting wealth. For young professionals, we'll help you grow your wealth, plan for your future, and make the most of your hard-earned dollars. For business owners, we provide strategies to protect your company, manage risks, and create a lasting legacy for both your business and personal wealth. For pre-retirees, we'll design a plan to secure your retirement, ensuring you can live comfortably and confidently in your next chapter. Whether you're just starting out, managing a thriving business, or preparing for retirement, we're here to help you take control of your financial future. The first consultation is on us. Get the advice you need without the cost. Let's make your financial vision a reality. Take the next step. Scan the QR code to schedule your free consultation today. And of course, go Birds.
Welcome to the Jet Setters and the High Rollers, to the Thrill Seekers and the Night Owls. Welcome to everything you could possibly want on one 5-mile island. Welcome to the Wildwoods. Book your stay today.
EAGLES, Eagles.
Welcome back in, everybody, to a Thursday edition of Birds 365 here on JAKIB Sports. I'm your host, Zander Krause. That's my co-host, Johnny Mack, John McMullen. Follow us on X at Zander Krause and at JF McMullen. If you can believe this, everybody, 77 days from now, we will be preparing for the Philadelphia Eagles to drop the banner and take on the Dallas Cowboys in week 1 of the NFL season. 77 days, J-Mac. That is like nothing, my man.
Yeah, well, my age.
I hear the in the voice, man. I hear it.
It's something to me. I'll tell you that. The grind. I got to prepare for the grind at this stage. You know.
Is there anything you got to knock off the agenda like before the grind begins?
Oh, tons of things.
Tons of shit, right?
Too much to count. Yeah. Yeah, from previews and just getting ready to stand out in the 100-degree heat. I'm glad it's getting hot early from the perspective of that. Don't mean that probably won't be quite as hot in July, but we'll see. Hopefully, and that's why they practice. They shift their practice in the morning to try to beat the heat. So we'll be shifting. Most likely, we don't have the schedule yet, but most likely we'll be shifting to night shows on the days of practices.
What did we do last year? Did we do 6 to 8 p.m.? Yeah.
So, because generally you're on the air with Cilio.
Yeah, well, that's for sure. I work from, I have that show. So I'm not able to do it till 6, and then you're obviously down at the NovaCare. So we'll see how that all shakes out. But 77 days, man, until we're there. That's pretty crazy. I can't believe the season's already here. It feels like yesterday I was on a parade float down in Philly with the great people of JAKIB Nation and the great residents of the city of Philadelphia. So feels like yesterday, but it's coming quick, brother.
It goes quick when you win the Super Bowl, when you play in the Super Bowl. And it has. I mentioned that yesterday, how behind I was for the draft this year, just from going to the Super Bowl. But good problem, but a problem, that quick reboot. Guys got especially veteran guys. Saquon, I wouldn't call it heat, but some people were surprised by Saquon's comments. And it just, as I mentioned, talked to Dallas earlier this week, some of the older guys, they can't just go 1,000,000 miles an hour. It's what Chip Kelly didn't get with Jason Peters. You can't ask Jason Peters to do what an 18-year-old kid in college is doing.
Yeah, right. There's so much of that in the NFL that I think you really have to factor in that some coaches don't understand. Steve checks in. He says, can we get Bob Groats back on? I will say that is one guy I miss. Bob retired, right? He's
Bob retired. Bob. Yeah, I mean, I would love to have Bob. There's a lot of guys, Nick Fierro as well. A lot of guys who retired. They don't feel comfortable talking about it because they're not there every day. I still think they're entertaining.
Bob is certainly. Bob was one of the most.
Bob's tremendous. He's one of the most entertaining people I've ever met in my life.
Yeah, he is hilarious.
Yeah, I mean, just a lot of guys, and they want to do other stuff. They don't want to be mixed. And if you're not paying attention to this damn team every day, you're kind of out of the loop because they do so much shit. But so yeah, a lot of guys don't feel comfortable when they put it in the rearview mirror. But yeah, anyway, I'm with you. I miss Bob. I was just texting with Bob.
There you go. Nice. Good that you guys are still in touch. John, one thing we talked about pre-show, nothing Eagles related, but I did want to bring it up because I know we have a lot of wrestling fans here on Birds 365. We had Goldberg on yesterday before the matchup with Gunther, so that was pretty cool to have Goldberg on here. Yeah,
big one. And people were shitting on him because he was limping. Boy.
Yeah, he responded to the critics. So if you're one of those people that was shitting on him, you can go over and listen to the interview with Goldberg and Big Sil.
I love it if they came face to face with Goldberg. I don't think even at 58 or whatever he is.
Yeah, 58. What he is.
I don't think they'd be shitting on him. Still jacked as all get out. But yeah, I mean, Cilio used to wrestle.
He said it. Cilio says, I've never done anything as physically taxing as
I
that.
constantly tell that
He
story all the
literally
time.
says it took me out.
Yeah.
Football was easy compared
I
to
hear it all the time. Everybody who's ever gone into pro wrestling that has a football background says that same thing. Every single one of them. Every single one of them. I don't know why it surprises people.
It
And
doesn't
used to
surprise
be
me. Like people used to always say, it's fake. I'm like, it's not fake. It's scripted. There's a big difference
Scripted,
between
yeah.
fake and scripted.
Exactly. The punishment they take is very real.
Yeah. What's the state of wrestling right now? Is it good? Is it good coming off of all the WrestleMania? I think what's coming up? They have SummerSlam or something?
Well, there's always SummerSlam. Yeah, SummerSlam's in Jersey this year.
It used to be in Wildwood when I was a kid, man. I don't know if that was like
not
more
SummerSlam.
recent.
They used to have way back. They used to have in the territory days. WWE would do a show weekly in Wildwood over the summer, like every week.
I forget what I went to. I know I went to something when I was a kid. I went to a couple WWEs.
You're too young for that, but yeah, they would still go to Wildwood like once or twice a year.
Yeah, I thought it was SummerSlam because I remember having a shirt that.
No, they definitely never had SummerSlam.
No,
SummerSlam's a big event. Wildwood's too small.
Yeah, obviously a niche location.
They might have said SummerSlam tour, it may be T-shirt, that type of thing, but not the actual. That's their second biggest event of the year. Now it's 2 days, which I hate. It's at MetLife Stadium, which I hate.
Yeah, that's what it was, by the way. The Heat Wave Tour.
Yeah.
SummerSlam Heat Wave Tour. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So, but the actual event, that's it. Back then it was major arenas. Now it's stadiums. So, yeah, they've grown to a ludicrous degree as well. And it'll be 2 days at MetLife Stadium.
It's right where my brother lives.
August 2nd and 3rd, I believe, right in the middle of training camp. But I am going to try to go. I don't know if I can do it, but I am going to try to go. But we'll see.
Yeah, it's not too far. It's hour and 20 minutes.
No, yeah, but I'm going to be.
It might even be for you too with where you are. I might pop right up there, man. Get on the. What do you
do? But the Eagles are probably going to be practicing in the morning. That's a long day. So
yeah, it is.
I'm
might be worth it though. Their production is it's like my favorite thing about the WWE is the way they produce their shows. It's unbelievable. Unbelievable on TV.
Yeah. Their use of drone cameras recently, it's just outrageous.
Yeah, you got to give them credit, man. They do that stuff so well. It's unbelievable. But good stuff. Johnny Mac, great show today, my man. Thursday edition. We'll wrap it up with a Football Friday. I'm excited for a Football Friday. It's harder to get, obviously it's the middle of the summer right now, but we do have a great guest on tomorrow, Johnny Mac. Someone I don't think we've had Oscar on since did we have him on with Jody and we haven't had him on with me? I don't remember ever.
No, we've had Ricky on, but this is the first time we're going to have Oscar on.
So we're getting Oscar Buttigieg on tomorrow, 9:20. Yep.
Yeah, so he's one of the Eagles Spanish language commentators with Ricky Ricardo. But yeah, great dude, man. People will like Oscar. Everybody likes Oscar.
Yeah, I'm excited to talk to him. We'll do that tomorrow on a Football Friday edition. Johnny Mac, great show today, brother. Your final thoughts, and then we'll let you run.
CJ Mosley retired, so should have mentioned that. Great linebacker for a number of years. Calls it a career. So well done by CJ Mosley. But
there you go. Johnny Mac, great stuff, brother. We'll catch you tomorrow on Birds 365 at Football Friday.
All right. Thanks, all.
All right. There's Johnny Mac, John McMullen, the #1 Eagles beat reporter in town. Give him a follow at JF McMullen. And a great show today here on Birds 365. As always, can't thank all of you guys enough. Great comments, great commentary today. We took a lot of comments today from to all the super chats and the, with the segment on the cap and the void years. I thought that was great as well. So a lot of good stuff. A lot of good stuff happening on the show, and we appreciate all you guys. What's Brian Pumper saying, huh? What's this nerd Pumper saying? What is this nerd Pumper saying? Brian Pumper. Brian Pumper. Are you kidding me, Pump? Are you kidding me, Pump? You got to be kidding me. Brian Pumper just made a foul comment. All right. Let me look this up. This is ridiculous. Brian, you know who you are? You're the French angel. Brian, you're the French angel. Brian, you know who the French angel is? Am I frozen? I might be frozen. This damn internet, dude. It's literally I've had enough. I'm so pissed off at it. Brian, you know who the French angel is? Come on, Pump. Come on, Pump. Come on, Pumper. I'm not getting any comment back from Pumper, so I'm going to take it that he doesn't know who French Angel is, but that's who he is. All right. That's who he is. All right, everybody. I appreciate it. This internet's not working, so I'm going to get out of here today. I appreciate all of you guys. I apologize for the internet. I called the internet provider. And I pay for the top business internet. It's fucking $300 a month, whatever it is. They're like, yeah, you might need to update the router. I'm like, you updated the router recently. So they might be coming out today to fix it. I don't know if they're doing it or not. All right. I appreciate all of you guys for listening, though. Great show today here on Birds 365. That's going to do it. See you next time on Birds 365.
You've been listening to Birds 365, the destination for the passionate Eagles football fan who bleeds green. If it's Eagles football, we're talking about it. Debate inside the locker room and guests that are some of the greatest football minds from around the region. We hope you enjoyed the show. We know we had a blast. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and we'll be back soon. But in the meantime, hook up with us on social media at JAKIB Sports. See you next time on Birds 365.